counseling during question time, she said sometimes as women, we are suspicious of each other. Then there's the competitive spirit. The principal said earlier that Hekima does not compete with anybody, they just compete with themselves. I think that is healthy competition. Then another concern is about leadership being exclusive. Yeah, we don't include others, we don't give them room. Sexist. Suki talked about the place of women and sexual harassment. Old, we are clinging to power. One politician in this country was being told, oh, I think you need to give room for the younger generation. And he said, you don't know how I appreciate being in leadership. I don't know whether that is positive or negative, but he said when he goes to a gathering and the children are singing praises to him, the women are dancing, the men are removing their hats. He says those are the lullabies that send him to sleep. How do you expect him to stop? Absentee, I've said about you and cry about leadership. Absentee presidents, absentee mothers, absentee fathers. I'm guilty because I'm here. What is happening to my family? Leadership that is elitist. There's a lot of unpackaging of each of these statements that we need to do. Now, I've talked about Mother Nature, and I want to look at challenges and lessons on leadership from Mother Nature. And the first one is about the snake and the baby. I had this in my village. It happened many, many years ago. A mother went to the garden, and as she was working, she put her baby under the tree. And she continued working. And she thought that the baby had slept a little bit too long. And when she went to check on the baby, there was a snake lying next to the baby. Of course, the natural thing to do was to scream, and villagers came and killed the snake. But the village elder said that was a mistake. This was a snake next to the baby, and it hadn't harmed the baby. The village elder said the baby slept a little bit longer because it was feeling comfortable. It was not threatened by the snake. And he said, we need to do something to appease the wrong that we have done by killing the snake. We'll come back to that later. Then Mother Hen and the Storm. One of our leading women theologians on the continent is Mercy Amba Oduyoye. She has written a poem about Mother Hen. She says, Mother Hen was lying on her cheeks, and there was a storm. Mother Hen did not leave her cheeks. She covered them with her wings and her feathers. In the morning, Mother Hen was dead and the chicks were dead. But Mother Hen never left her chicks' protection. I also want to talk about Mother Eagle and her chick. Mother Eagle is a very, very protective bird. But after keeping the baby bird in the nest for a very long time, a time comes when she has to teach this child about survival. She picks the chick from the nest and throws it so that little chick may learn to fly and to be independent. At the right moment, Mother Eagle goes under and catches the chick so that it doesn't land and there's no more danger. And she does this many, many, many times until the little one is able to fly on their own and to be independent. Then stories abound of animals that have adopted others, even those that are perceived to be enemies. And there's a whole list of them that I have in my longer notes. Now, the church is regarded as a leader. Now, the questions that we would need to ask women and we as church, and we who are talking about synodality, how do we treat those that are different? Mother Nature has, but how do we treat those that are different? And I think synodality has covered a lot about that. How do we treat the younger or the young? Gen Z is now a common term across, and for those of us from Kenya, we know what that means for our society. How do we handle the vulnerable? Because leadership is about how we treat those who are not as privileged as we are. How do we provide hope, warmth, and companionship? Remember the snake. How can we be endearing? How do we relate healthy as men and women? And how do we break stereotypes? I just want to say this. Mother Nature is a puzzle. Mother Nature is a complex, but is an effective leader and teacher. There are many tips on governance and what motherhood entails, literally and figuratively. There is justifiable need to re-image and reimagine leadership in the 21st century. And further, synodality as well encompasses motherhood, leadership, and nature. Going back to the cases I've given of the snake, of mother hen or mother eagle, there are some aspects which I think we need to think about. If we are considering the church as mother and Mother Nature as well, then there are few things that we need to be thinking about. I have several of them here, but I'm not going to mention them. I want to leave them for ourselves to reflect and to think about ways in which Mother Nature gives us tips and challenges on synodality and leadership. And as I said earlier, there is a lot of expectation on women, and there's a lot of expectation again on church. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. George, how did I perform? How many minutes? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So thank you very much, Professor Mary Getui. She has performed very well. I think there is a little bit of a competition now who is performing well, but I think it's a healthy competition. She has managed to keep her time and even saved 2 minutes for us. So, Dr. Mary Getui, combining leadership and discernment, we continue with this theme, but before we proceed, let's give her one clap. Thank you very much, Prof. The second presenter this afternoon is none other than Sister Dr. Maria Natalia. And Sister Maria, or Dr. Natalia Ajay, is a member of Immaculate Heart of Mary, IHM, Mother of Christ Congregation. She has a PhD in Religious Studies from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Masters in Theology from Duquesne University, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA, Science of Education with specialization in religious education. Catechetics from Pontifical Facoltà di Scienza in Rome. May we invite Sister Dr. Maria to come forward and present your paper. Let's clap for her. One clap. Karibu sana.
Thank you. It's very challenging to come after my professor, Professor Getui, who taught me also in the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I want to begin with a note of appreciation for Hekima College and all the donors who have put this program together. For me, it is a favor, and I am very grateful. Reflecting on synodality, leadership challenges, my congregation will be used as a case study as I present to you transformative leadership style of Immaculate Heart Sisters. And so 2 words will be mentioned from time to time. The first one is Ada, and the second one is Umada, Jesu. As a model, turning challenges to opportunity. Introduction. The ideal of leadership within women religious congregations is the central focus of this study. Leadership plays a pivotal role in sustaining the vitality and apostolate of women religious congregations across the globe. Women female religious congregations like IHM Sisters in Nigeria have their fair share of leadership challenges, and it serves as the context of this research. Current models of leadership have colonial traces and sometimes does not resonate with indigenous values. There is utmost need to explore traditional models of leadership to offer more contextual solutions. Statement of the problem. Sometimes we have authoritarian leadership style. This damages trust, discourages initiative, and affects the emotional and spiritual well-being of members, especially the weak ones. Centralization of leadership in some communities, leadership has become overly centralized, strict, and vested in the hands of a few persons, and sometimes you see people remaining in authority for many years. Leadership sometimes could disconnect. When it is this way, weakens trust and joy in some IHM communities. Weakening sense of communality that betrays African values. And so, there is need for leadership models rooted in African communal values. Objectives of this study. We shall identify key leadership challenges among IHM sisters, as it is in many congregations all over the world. Assess the impact of current leadership styles on the life and mission of the IHM sisters. Explore cultural values in Ada and Umada roles in Igbo tradition in Nigeria. Then evaluate their relevance for religious leadership. Finally, suggest transformational leadership frameworks rooted in Ada and Umada models. Theoretical framework. Mary Parker Follett's human relations theory, genuine power arises through collaboration. We've heard a lot about this today. Synodal leadership in the church rooted in communion ecclesiology. And then indigenous Igbo leadership models, Ada and Umada. Morally grounded, resonate more with African values, community-centered leadership. Methodology. This research employs a qualitative case study design. It is used to explore and understand complex phenomena within their real-life context. It seeks to gain in-depth insight in particular context rather than generalizable findings. Literature review. Peter Nothaus defines leadership as a relational process through which individuals or groups are influenced towards achieving shared goals. A leader must be a model to do this. Leadership is relational, purpose-driven, and transformational. In Catholic theology, leadership is fundamentally anchored on the principles of servant-leader relationship, moral uprightness, and the pursuit of the common good. That is when we can call a leader. Contemporary theologians like Kanu Anthony emphasize the necessity of inculturated leadership, a blend of the gospel values and African traditions to remain impactful and contextually relevant. According to Global Sisters report, some African women religious congregations still function under the effect of colonial-era structures. For example, authoritarianism, lack of inclusivity. Now, let's come to my congregation. Some information about us. Founded in 1937 by Archbishop Charles Hiri of blessed memory, an Irish missionary who later became the first Archbishop of Onitsha in Nigeria. Mission now spread across Nigeria, Africa, and other continents. Inspired by the need to help the people grow spiritually and socio-culturally, especially the education of women, Father Hiri envisioned a community of African women to be set apart in prayer and apostolic zeal. Focus is or was on education, healthcare, and women's empowerment. Let's say something about leadership strides. Impactful accomplishments have been realized by IHM leaders in the history of the congregation in various areas like healthcare, education, and social services, holistic support for women and girls, compassionate outreach to widows, orphans, single mothers, etc. Healthcare apostolate encompassing work in various hospitals, clinics, and maternity centers. Academic achievement of many IHM sisters in many institutions of learning, like Reverend Sister Professor Mary Jerome Obiora, who became the first African woman to earn a doctorate in sacred scripture from the Pontifical Biblical Institute in Rome. Institutional excellence of IHM-owned schools across Nigeria and in other African countries. Now, something about leadership challenges. Professor Getu mentioned some of them. In addition to that, despite the aforementioned positive achievements of the sisters, there are still areas of improvement that IHM leadership can reflect upon. They include personality clashes and rifts from cultural differences among some sisters, autocratic leadership styles that suppress participation sometimes, inconsistent standards and favoritism. We talk about double standard, and the issue of sacred cows, frequent interpersonal conflicts, conflicts over traditions versus innovation. These issues highlight the need for more inclusive, adaptive, and compassionate leadership. Now, let's come to what I am proposing, transformational leadership. Ada in Igbo language means first daughter. Here are 6 points summarizing the concept and cultural role of Ada in traditional Igbo society in Nigeria. Unique position. The Ada, or first daughter, holds a respected position in Igbo culture, entrusted with moral, family, and cultural responsibility. Ordinarily, she is a born leader. Let's talk about moral authority. Despite patriarchal norms, the Ada exercises considerable moral authority, lives exemplary virtuous life, influences family decisions, and serves as a representative in sensitive negotiations. As a matter of fact, the younger ones take lead after her. She's a model for all of them. Leadership roles. The Ada may ascend to leadership position like Omu, highlighting Igbo understandings of power beyond physical control to include spiritual and moral dimensions. Cultural responsibility. The Ada preserves family traditions. She's the one that reminds the family about the family traditions, mediates conflicts, nurtures siblings' bonds, and maintains family harmony, serving as a bridge between the living and ancestral realms. Spiritual significance. The Ada is expected to be spiritually grounded. She should be a woman of prayer, embodying family traits and values, and ensuring their continuity through generations. Now, another word is Ubada. This means collective moral authority of women. Summarizing the concept of Umuada institution in Igbo culture, a statutory body, Umuada is a group of adult women, most of them mothers, from a lineage who come together as a political agent to promote family and community welfare. Conflict resolution. They resolve disputes, especially domestic conflicts, among family members and among in-laws in most cases. Moral authority. Umuada have significant moral authority, often surpassing male elders. You will not believe that. In some cultures in Yoruba land, for example, during wedding, the women are in charge. Men wouldn't be able to say anything, especially when they come for the hand in marriage of the daughter that has been trained and is educated. Community development. They drive community development through initiatives like education and health care. Women's empowerment. Umuada affirm women's decision-making authority within their natal families. Very interesting. Dual role. They balance traditional cultural roles with modern development efforts. Applications of Ada and Umuada models. Contextual leadership framework. The indigenous Igbo models of Ada and Umuada offer cultural-rooted, spiritually enriched alternatives to address leadership challenges among the IHM sisters and among religious communities. Ada model as transformational leadership. The Ada, as the first daughter, embodies self-transformation, moral integrity, and compassionate leadership, qualities that reflect Barth's and Follett's principles of transformational and relational leadership. A leader in the religious community must try as much as possible to demonstrate these African values in concrete terms. Authentic leadership through example, like the Ada, IHM leaders are called to lead not by authority alone, but by the silent power of example, embodying humility, holiness, gentleness, and professional excellence to inspire others. Shift from transactional to transformational leadership. The Ada model encourages IHM sisters to move beyond rigid, role-based leadership to a style that prioritizes vision, trust, community building, and personal growth. Applications of Ada and Umuada models. Umuada model and collective leadership. Umuada represents communal leadership, as I've said before, mutual accountability and peacemaking, addressing issues like rivalry and disunity through dialogue and shared responsibilities. These are virtues of synodality. Umuada Jesu, reimagining spiritual kingship. The IHM sisters are called to see themselves as Umuada Jesu, fostering stronger spiritual bond among themselves and communal care based on shared consecration rather than biological ties. Integration with synodal and human relations models. Both the Ada and Umuada models align with Mary Parker Follett's relational leadership theory and the Catholic Church's synodal approach, emphasizes collaboration, discernment, and shared mission. Leadership renewal strategies. Cultural identity and renewal. Rediscovering indigenous models like Ada and Umuada deepen the IHM sisters' identity and mission and regulate spiritual programs like retreats, Eucharist, celebration of the Eucharist, confessions, seminars, and so on. And these are essentials for ongoing personal and communal renewal. Mentorship and intergenerational dialogue. Elderly sisters or senior sisters like the Ada should mentor younger members continuously to bridge generational gaps and ensure continuity in leadership and mission. Participatory leadership structures. Combining individual excellence, Ada, with communal collaboration, Umuada, leadership should move from centralization to inclusive and engaging structures. Holistic leadership formation. IHM leaders should be formed in emotional, spiritual, and intercultural competence to embody compassionate, trustworthy, and adaptive leadership skills. Finally, dear friends, the heart of this academic work is that true leadership among the IHM sisters should be rooted in personal transformation, grounded in selfless and God-centered love. A leader cannot transform the others unless she's first of all transformed. By drawing on the Igbo cultural models of Ada and Umada, along with Christian and human-centered leadership principles, the sisters can foster a collaborative and spiritual, vibrant leadership style that strengthens community life and deepens their witness to the gospel. And this must be a continuous process. The Ada model emphasizes the importance of personal transformation as the foundation for positively influencing others in leadership, while the Umada model promotes communal unity, shared responsibility, and participatory governance, which are essential for healthy community. My dear friends, every IHM sister, every religious, every woman is an Ada. Every IHM community, every convent is an Umada Jesu. Thank you very much.
Transformational leadership, Ada, Umada. We'll talk about this in the interactive session. At this time, I would really like us to appreciate the contribution of Sister Dr. Maria Natalia. There is a vacuum in leadership. Talked about discerning leadership, transformational leadership. It's no longer leadership. It has to be qualified, apparently, by putting an adjective before it. Thank you, Sister Maria. One clap. Proceeding very well. We go to the next presenter. The next presenter is Sister Dr. Mercy Shubamhini. She is a part-time lecturer at in our sister institution, Arupe Jesuit University in Zimbabwe. And she is a well-rounded woman. If you go to page 47, maybe the best thing is to say what she is not. It might be the easiest way. Because this woman is a consecrated woman. One, she's a social worker, theologian, spiritual director, therapist. Continue with the list. Up to a time whereby you see that her doctorate in theology is in practical theology. No wonder she is that well-rounded. She is a leader in her own rights, having been a leader in her congregation, but also in academia, her contribution, and at the moment working in the development office of her congregation. And that development office, when we talk of sustainability, maybe we have to talk about sustainable leadership. Allow me now to invite Sister Dr. Mercy, who is going to take us through a topic entitled Recognizing the Importance of Safety for All in the Church, a Holistic Approach. Let's give her one clap. Sister, karibu.
Asante sana.
You can use that.
Good afternoon. The presentations we have had today enriched me, and they actually empowered and challenged me, as well as encouraged me, sort of given a voice. So I hope I'm going to use that voice. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, it is a joy and an honor to stand before you this afternoon at Hekima University College as we reflect together on recognizing the importance of safety for all in the church, a holistic approach. I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers and sponsors of this important conference. Thank you for creating this sacred space of shared discernment, where voices from across our global church are not only welcomed, but truly valued. As a sister of the congregation of Jesus, I've seen both the beauty of community and the painful reality of those who have felt unsafe, unheard, or unseen within the very place that should be their refuge. It is this reality that compels me to speak today. The Synod on Synodality is not simply a process. It is an invitation of the Spirit, a call to become a listening, healing, and inclusive church. And so we must ask ourselves, how can we truly walk together as one body if some among us still carry wounds of fear or exclusion? Sister Gisela talked about the wounds today. Yet I believe that if we dare to face this question honestly, the Spirit will guide us toward a future where every person can find belonging, dignity, and safety in the heart of the church. Pope Francis reminded us that his credibility is shown in how she treats her most vulnerable members. Therefore, safeguarding is the proactive and intentional effort to protect children, women, and vulnerable adults from abuse, harm, or neglect, ensuring that every person is safe, respected, and valued within the life of the church. I just want to say that in Africa, this is very urgent due to ongoing trauma, silence, and unrevealed wounds. Methodology: exploring safeguarding through a holistic lens. This presentation draws on literature review guided by the work of scholars such as Tranfield, Lingard, and others. It explores both the theological foundations and the lived implementation of safeguarding in the African church with a focus on justice, compassion, and cultural relevance. Narrative therapy: healing through storytelling. Safeguarding must be healing. If we talk about safeguarding, it must be healing. And healing begins with storytelling. Narrative therapy emphasizes reauthoring lives broken by trauma and abuse in our church. In Africa, storytelling is sacred. It carries wisdom and identity. As one African proverb says, until the lion learns to ride, every story will glorify the hunter. Until we start to write, otherwise people will talk about us. This powerful African proverb reminds us that true justice and transformation begin when the unheard find their own voice, challenging us to create space for all stories, not just the ones told by the powerful, not by the men or by the educated people. Therefore, safeguarding is a theological act. There are 5 pillars of theological foundation of this study. 1, contextual theology. Some people were discussing today experience. Contextual theology is about listening to lived experience. Contextual theology insists that theology must begin with people's lived experience, not above, but below, the grassroots, where the people are. In Africa, this includes the realities of abuse, trauma, mental health, gender injustice, and spiritual longing. We must listen to these stories with respect. 2, practical theology. I love it. Faith in action. Practical theology demands that faith becomes action. It asks, how do we accompany the wounded? How do we embody Christ's healing presence? Safeguarding is not about police alone. It is about pastoral care. Sister Gisela, pastoral care with integrity and compassionate. 3, ecclesiology and the vision of Vatican II. I acknowledge those who have talked so much about the people of God. The Second Vatican Council, through Lumen Gentium, cast a bold and beautiful vision of the church, not as a fortress, but as a communion of believers, a pilgrim people, where each person is seen valued and embraced. To truly live as the people of God is to ensure that no one is invisible, especially the most vulnerable among us. They must not only be welcomed, they must be safe, heard, and protected. Safeguarding is not merely a set of procedures or guidelines. It is a sacred mission. It flows from the heart of the gospel, rooted in compassion, justice, and deep community. When we protect the dignity of every person, especially those who have been wounded, we do more than follow guidelines. We embody the very essence of the church Christ calls us to be. 4, Ubuntu and communal healing. I am because we are. Therefore, safeguarding is a communal responsibility where healing is shared by all. The church must be a place of communal healing where everyone, especially the vulnerable, is protected and healing becomes the shared work of the community. Safeguarding in Africa must reflect this. Abuse is not just personal. It wounds the entire body. 5, African women's theology, prophetic voices of healing and hope. African women are the heartbeat of the church, and I think the bishop emphasized this so much in the homily. The ones who sing the faith into being, carry its burdens in silence, and proclaim its hope in the face of suffering. The prophetic voices of theologians like Ms. Amber Odioyo and Professor Teresa Okule here present with us, and countless unnamed women have long reminded us, healing, wisdom, and leadership are not luxuries. They are sacred necessities. Their theology is not abstract. It is woven from tears, resilience, and the enduring power of community. It speaks of a God who lifts up the glory and a church that must do the same. Their insights do not merely invite us, they challenge us to reimagine safeguarding as a spiritual, cultural, and justice-rooted practice. Therefore, to honor their legacy is to build a church where compassion is strength, justice is non-negotiable, and the wisdom of African women leads us forward. I don't say much because we have heard a lot about these women. Safeguarding in a snowed out church, synodality in practice. Synodality means listening, participation, and co-responsibility. Without safeguarding, synodality risks leaving people behind. Safeguarding makes sure the path is safe for everyone. And in many African contexts, the church is still a place of silence or shame for survivors. This must change. It has to change. Without safety, synodality is incomplete. Mental health, trauma, and healing, wounds that need the church's compassion. In many parts of Africa, trauma is rooted in experiences of violence, abuse, and conflict. Yet mental health remains too often overlooked, even though it is central to the church's mission of safeguarding. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, abuse wounds the soul, and the silence that follows only deepens the pain. If the church is truly to be a place, the same parish. It includes trauma-informed pastoral care, mental health ministries within the church, liturgies of lament and hope that name pain and call on God's healing. The church must open its arms, not only to the sinner, but to the wounded. We always go to the sinner, we need to forget all those who are wounded in our church. Because safeguarding is not just about preventing harm, it is about restoring dignity, offering refuge, and walking with the brokenhearted toward holiness. A call to action, the 6 proposals. 1, local structures for listening and protection, inclusive teams with lay, youths, women, and survivors. The team must design and lead safeguarding responses, not to let the priest doing it, but to include everyone. 2, mental health integration. Board, mind, and soul. Collaborate with mental health professionals and Catholic health institutions to provide trauma-informed care, spiritual counseling, and community-based healing. 3, contextual resources. Speak to the heart of the people. Create safe, confidential reporting channels. Justice must bring healing. 4, women's leadership, empowering prophetic voices. Appoint women to lead safeguarding offices and train others. Women must be police shepherds, not just caregivers. Their voices are prophetic. They are prophetic, and you have seen it today. 5, survivor-centered reporting, justice that heals. Develop materials in local languages, using songs, proverbs, stories, drama, and visuals that reflect African values. Catechesis and safeguarding training must be accessible and cultural grounded. 6, formation of clergy and religious. I think we talked about formation. Ongoing training in trauma awareness, safeguarding, and personal boundaries must begin in formation and continue throughout ministry. Conclusion. Toward a church that heals. Safeguarding is not separate from mission. It is the gospel in action. To safeguard the vulnerable is to safeguard the gospel itself. For in their dignity, the face of Christ is revealed. As Pope Francis reminded us, the pain of the victims is our pain. Their wounds call the whole church to conversion, responsibility, and solidarity. Pope Leo XIV, at the beginning of his purpose, affirmed, we must seek together how to be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges and welcomes all. Yet such a missional church can only be credible if it is also a safe church where the vulnerable are protected first and where the healing of wounds is embraced as part of evangelization itself. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ, let us walk together as a synodal church where safety is not an afterthought, but the very core of our identity. This calls us to inclusive and co-responsible models of ecclesial life where every voice is heard, women's leadership is valued, and the cries of the wounded are met with justice and compassion. Only then, my dear brothers and sisters, can you truly be a church that heals, restoring trust, dignity, and hope, and bearing credible witness to the gospel in our world today. Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation has helped highlight the importance of creating a culture of safety for everyone in the church through a holistic and inclusive approach. I am truly grateful to the organizers for the opportunity to contribute to this vital conversation, and to the sponsors for supporting such meaningful work. I welcome your thoughts and questions, and I look forward to continuing this dialogue together. Asante sana. Thank you.
Until the lion learns to write, who gets the glory? The hunter gets the glory. And not only that, without synodality, without safety, synodality is what? Incomplete. Sister Dr. Mercy, you have a big responsibility. We will definitely grill you at some point to explain it a little bit more. And we will also make our contribution. To that effect, may we appreciate the contribution of Dr. Mercy. with one clap. Thank you very much. At some point in my conversation here, I said that actions have consequences. Well, I'm going to do the opposite of that. If you look at the program you had been given, you have been awarded 15 minutes of break. I can see already some people contemplating Peter in the garden. You know that contemplation? Contemplation of Peter in the garden. You know it, eh? The contemplation, you just remember what Peter did when they went with Jesus in the garden. He was not sleeping, he was contemplating the events that were ahead of them. Positive interpretation is ignition. And therefore, we are going to have a longer break than we had planned. Now is 4:30. May I request that we take an extra 15 minutes so we come back at 5 p.m. So you have 30 minutes. You can go take a cup of coffee, maybe also take some, you relax a little bit. For 30 minutes, we come back at 5 p.m. And once we come back, I will invite the 3 panelists to come forward, and we are going to engage them for clarifications and even give them clues and hints of improving their presentation. So let's take a break. We meet at 5 p.m. Of that song. So I knew what I'm saying. Yeah, sister, congratulations. May God bless you and give you good health. Oh, sorry. That is how Sister Wambua celebrates. So, the modus operandi is this. We have already spent 5 minutes, so we have 55 minutes remaining. And we have a full hour of interaction. But in order to be fair to the panelists, we are going to take 3 questions at a go. We have already spent 5 minutes, so the same problem has repeated itself. Okay. So 3 questions. It doesn't have to be questions. It can be also a comment. It can be maybe an input. And if I do not see you for 2 times, it's not because I have anything against you. It's just that sometimes you may see my eyes are open, but actually they are not seeing. We have eyes to see, but we don't see. So just shout. A broad smile, as I mentioned, could also attract me to give you the mic. With that, who is beginning?
Thank you for giving me the mic. Yes, my question is addressed to Professor Mary. In the course of your exposition, you spoke about absentee mothers. And I was struck because I have had an experience. I've been in a school of 2,000 plus students, and I came to realize that many of the students were being abandoned by their mothers because they are concerned with their businesses and their offices. They are searching for money to sponsor these children, but they do not pay attention to their children, and they had so many needs. And I tried to follow them, and I realized the number was just too large for me. So when you spoke about absentee mothers, I felt I should ask you that question. when you are trapped in this kind of situation, what do you do with these children? It's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 10, it's not 20. These mothers, where do you see them? And how can you help even the mother before these children? Because I know in schools, when we journey with students, we are journeying with students and their parents. Together, we help these children. And when the mothers are not there, what other method can we use in order to help these children? Because it has been a situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our presenters. My question goes to Sister Maria Natalia and the model of the leadership that the Immaculate Heart Sisters use. That is the transformative one, something like that. So my curiosity is on that model of Ada and Umwada about the firstborn daughters. And I was looking at maybe a girl joining your congregation and maybe coming from a community where the girl, regardless of where the position in the family, is not regarded. It is the boy, even if he comes the last. So how do you help this girl so that she can be able to adopt to do this model where maybe coming from a firstborn, like she may feel that way? Thank you.
The last set.
Thank you for the question. My name is Mami Masimane. I'm a student here. I'm from DRC Congo, and a community leader of refugees here in Kenya. My question is, a self-listening framework for refugees to integrate them into the synodality. Secondly, how can we put faith into action in the church by answering safeguarding for refugees while respecting their dignity? Because sometimes the refugee access support from the church, but not in the safe way. Thank you.
Let's give the...
We didn't get the question, please. Can she slowly and repeat?
Yeah. Don't put close to the mouth. I can hold for you if you want.
How can, by ensuring safeguarding for refugee while respecting her dignity, their dignity?
Is that clear? The alternative is that she can do it in French and then we can ask somebody to translate. Camille, can you help us to translate? She can ask in French. Okay, you can do it in French if that is okay.
Ma préoccupation est de savoir comment concrétiser la foi dans l'action avec votre système de safeguarding dans l'Église, tout en respectant la dignité des réfugiés. Parce que la plupart des fois, l'Église joue un rôle très capital pour donner les réponses aux réfugiés, mais il y a des fois aussi, on les fait d'une façon qui n'est pas bien sécurisée, qui est un peu public, qui leur expose aussi, qui ne respecte pas leur dignité. Pour la deuxième préoccupation, est-il possible que l'équipe de African Women Theologians puisse mettre en place un centre d'écoute pour les réfugiés, spécialement pour les femmes, en fait de savoir quelles réponses donner à leurs préoccupations pour leur intégration dans la synodalité. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Let's hear now. I wanted to translate in Swahili, but some of us would not understand.
I'm not sure to grab the whole question, but the second one is it possible to put into practice a center, a listening center that can help the refugees to talk and to express their sorrows and consolation, especially the women. And then the first one, how concretely can we help the refugees using the instruments of our faith? This is my own understanding in the safeguarding context or issues.
Thank you very much. Let's proceed. It will unfold. Everything will unfold. So please, the presenters, it's your floor. You can begin. We can begin with Professor Getui.
Sister, thank you very much for the question. A study was done here in Nairobi, and for many young people, children, they said they don't want presents, they want presence of their parents. In one of the challenges I raised about leadership was the idea of materialism. All these things are related. We might be thinking that we are doing justice to our children, maybe making them as materially comfortable as possible, but the children are crying for the presence, the love and the warmth of their parents. It's really a dilemma because the parents need career progression. If they stay home taking care of the babies, then there'll be no food. So it's a very difficult situation. Now, not because I knew this question was going to come, but one of the folders I'm working with is of a conference that was held in building partnerships for accelerating action towards quality and inclusive childcare in Africa. Some of the key issues that came in include workplace policies, where there will be like a package from one's place of work, which gives, for example, a crèche where you can bring your child, you are working, and at the same time, you are also taking care of your baby. There's a place in Zambia where this is working, actually in the marketplace. We are not even talking about elite kind of parents, but we are talking about market women, and this has been taken care of. It also brings in the issue of care, I don't know whether to call them caregivers, but the people we entrust our children with. You can be away, but you have somebody who is trained, who cares about this child. They are not doing it as a job, but they are doing it because they know that they have something that they are doing. Another issue that came up was paternity leave, because the Holy Spirit worked only once. These children have fathers. Where are they as well? In Kenya, we have paternity leave. A study again has been done that the fathers take paternity leave. It's not very long, but they don't use it for what it was intended. But these are really some of the good things that are thought about. The practice may not be as well, but those kind of opportunities. And then maybe we also make a distinction between quality and quantity. We could work during the day, and when we get home in the evenings, we are spending quality time with our children, or when schools close. I don't know whether it's still happening, but Philomena and myself could remember that we wished to take leave when our children are on holiday, so that at least it gives you an opportunity to be with them. So even as I give those suggestions, I know that it's extremely difficult for many parents, even those who have got very good intention. In my church, we tried a program where because we are in the city, we don't have our physical grandparents here, but could we have people who would volunteer in church to be foster grandparents to the children in church? And it didn't matter how many you could take. And in a way, it helped. Some of the bonding that I see between the older generation and the younger generation is because of that program. Unfortunately, it didn't go on for too long, but while it lasted, it seems like it played a part. Those are the few suggestions I could give. I'm sure there's a lot of wealth of experience and ideas from amongst ourselves as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful question. Now, the model, the Adam model, is presented as a kind of model for the individual to learn the values and the virtues of the first daughter. Many of us who are here, we are not first daughters. Some are last born. But in the course of formation, these values will be presented because, just as we heard today, every sister is a mother. She doesn't have to be a reverend mother. We are also not negating the fact that a last born who is made a superior, what happens? What happens to a last born? Well, before making her a superior, she must have undergone a training of leadership. She doesn't have to remind us that she's a last born. As far as she's the superior, she becomes the leader. She becomes the first daughter. So these values will be taught in the course of formation, are being taught in the course of formation to let each sister realize that she doesn't have to be a superior general. Every IHM sister is a leader, and she must demonstrate the values of first daughters and collective leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not so sure if I understood the first question. Just a little bit, bits and pieces, but I just got something like, how can we safeguard refugees or give them dignity or respect, something like that. I'm not so sure. I always, when I give workshops to religious on safeguarding, I always start with any one of us can be vulnerable at one time or another. And I always say it's good for us to become aware, to take responsibility of safeguarding each other. If I come like here, if I lose my passport in Kenya right now, I become very vulnerable. No, no matter my position, wherever, I become very vulnerable. So when we are working with people like refugees, some of them, they've held prominent positions or maybe running business in there. But when they are away from their own country, their own land, they become vulnerable. And these people, they need us to protect them, also to safeguard them. It's like when I spoke, I said safeguarding is not only about police or putting guidelines also. It's about protection and healing. And when we talked about, a lot, Sister Gessler talked about listening. Listening is healing. To give these people space, sometimes, they just want to share with you, their own lives, what they've done, what they are missing about their home, That talking, and you are being there, appreciating them, you are healing them. And when you listen, it means you are there for the person, you value the person. I have worked a lot with special children who have been abused, and children who also have been like transit, dropped somewhere. Maybe they are coming from the Eastern Africa going to South Africa, and somewhere something happens and they don't know, they are just stranded. But these children, when they find someone to listen to them, to take care of them, to give them a place of safety, a home where they feel, I am loved and cared, you in that way you give them dignity. You are respecting them. And when we are talking about synodality, in the sense of synodality, even if they are refugees, they can also participate even in liturgy. In whatever you are doing in the camp, or if you are in a camp, you are doing some community activities. They can also use their skills so that they feel it's not what has happened in their lives is not the end of their lives. I hope I have helped you. And the second question, you said, is it possible to have a center, for healing center? When we finished our talking during break time, we were just talking about Dr. from DRC Congo. She was saying to me she would like to do something safeguarding, starting a center especially for religious to come and telling what I love. When you give people room to share their own stories, to talk about themselves, you are giving them a greater gift. Because you are saying, tell us about yourself. What can you offer? What gifts do you have? And when people start talking about themselves, what they can do, someone can say, when I was in my home country, I used to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe here I can also start doing this in the camp. So it's I would say go for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that fast route. We still have a couple of minutes. Yes, please.
Thank you, all three of you. My question is for our sister Natalia. I think you're right in noticing that community is a growing area for all of our congregations, community life and the ways of interacting and growing. So your presentation was really of great interest to me. Being rooted in the Ada and Wada models, you used your congregation as a case study. So I would love to hear, did you use this? Are you using this? How do you do this in media res? So we're in the middle of living. Are you doing training sessions? Will everyone already know this? And is everyone in your congregation a member of the IBU? And would that even matter? So how have you done this case study? And what difference are you finding it makes? Or perhaps you're thinking about it. And if you're thinking about it, what would it look like for the members? What would it look like for leaders at this moment, elected leaders? What would you do when people begin formation? So it's the practical piece of how are you putting this? What has it been like? Or are you like creating something? So thank you. I think we're always looking for, what are different ways to just lift up our best in coming forth and acknowledge that we're vulnerable, that we struggle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just let me get 2 more.
Thank you. Godwin Tuhame, a student at the Catholic University from Uganda. My question goes to Dr. Mercy. You say that in your research, it might not be research. Thank you.
Thank you. And
thank you.
Thank you. And have another last intervention.
Thank you very much. I really appreciated all three. And I think what was emerging, about the reality that the continent faces traumatized people. And so we could either do programs where we're training people, but how can we use what is already there, like the liturgy, the mass, what is already existence, to make those existing structures healing, storytelling, so that there is kind of like a continuity, which is really part of synodality. It's a way of being church. It's a way of making that an integral part of who we are as a people. So how can we do that?
Thank you. You may proceed. We'll have another set of questions. You'll be the first one, sister.
Thank you, sister, for that question. This paper was written specifically based on pastoral and personal experience. Interviews were made, discussions were made with some sisters in the community. Some of these values are being taught, but I am proposing with this paper a transformational leadership. I remember when I sent my abstracts, the team asked me to contextualize it, and that was what made me to do this research and propose the values that I've discussed with you. The values, some of them are being taught, but I am also going further to say that we must go deeper by using African values, the values rooted in first daughter and umuna, communal leadership, to project them not just for my congregation alone, but for religious women and even in the families, as a way forward to deal with challenges of synodality, challenges of leadership, both in the family, beginning from the family to the religious community and to the church. Just like Professor Okure said, whatever we discussed here today goes for the men also. The bishop, the parish priest, must be a transformational leader. He must have those values that really expresses what it means to be a leader. So this is ongoing, but I must tell you, by the time we go back to the congregation, we're going to discuss more of these. This paper came out as a result of this conference. But some of these values are being taught, and we are going to go further to present them to the formators to keep working on transformational leadership. Thank you, sister.
Would any of the other presenters like to make?
Okay. Thank you very much for your question. It's a very real question which is, challenges us in our everyday life. This is happening. If I tell you the story of this, it was actually in a cathedral, in a Sacred Heart Cathedral in Harare. And this woman, like people, it was mass during the week. And we just, someone crying, when someone is crying, it's like, so, if even we, with the people next, we felt, what can we do? And then I just went and then be with her, just to hold her till the mass was over. And then I went with her outside, to talk, to listen to her. So for me, it's one, but I have also, in my work, also dealt with a number of these issues. If I tell you another story, touching story, which I always share, to see this woman, there was a woman, and I was helping the priest to give out Holy Communion. And imagine someone is receiving, Holy Communion, and you see someone is crying. And, afterwards, you can't just ignore, you can't just ignore, you have to go to the people. And the same issues of abuse. This was a widow. And, things, the husband died through accident, and the car and everything was taken by the relatives. And at the end of the day, we had to do my thesis, my master's thesis is on the widows, and she is one of the participants, because we wanted also to empower her and also to give her a job. You said, what is the solution? One of the solutions for me, if you get in touch with someone, don't just do piecemeal. You know, and don't think about bigger things. Sometimes we think of bigger things to do to people to help them. And for this lady, for example, I talked to the other sisters in the children's home. She can bring her children, and since we have also orphans, she can be part of the family. And we worked with her, and she is still there, and now she has grandchildren. This was 2005. And a solution like this today, don't you think that this is one of the solutions? You know, Hekima is trying to give voice to the voiceless, isn't it, to the women? And if this book is sold, people read it, somehow, some message go. For us, especially for us who are participating here, once something, it's like once you met Jesus, and Jesus, you know, and you like the disciples, you have to do something. Even in small ways. If you are working, if in your family, our family is also, this can be abuse and can be there also. And you can start wherever you are to say, I have to do something for the people who are weak, the weaker people in my community or in my family, or, you know, wherever I am, or in the school. You know, she gave a beautiful presentation of students being even marginalized by lecturers. And they can be, you know, you can be also a lecturer and you see the system going on at the university you are. Do something about it. And this is this platform here is conscientizing us to do something. Don't think of, you know, think of small things. Where you are teaching here, small things. Become aware of abuse, of vulnerability. Become aware, some people may be even vulnerable here. You know, some people coming, you know, you check. I was so impressed. People are looking after my neighbor there. Say she cannot move. I mean, but someone brings food. You become aware of someone who cannot move to the next to look for food. You don't need to think of bigger things. Think of small things, even in the community. With sisters we have some even young sisters who are being silenced. You know, we are, even when we are saying safeguarding, also from power, from spiritual power, even priests silencing sisters, even religious leaders, as a leader, silencing the weaker sister, or making decision for someone. No, involve the person in decision making about your own life. So this is what we have to do. Let's start small, and let's start here, and let's start wherever we are. We can change the world. Mother Teresa said, small is beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sister. Becoming aware of vulnerability. I'm trying to be very just. I don't want to make anyone feel vulnerable. But also don't make me vulnerable. Yeah, I'm going to take the last set of questions. So I'll have there at the back, and then sister there. Let me have, and sister the last one. So we are going to have 3, and then you're going to respond, because the others had a little bit shorter time. I don't want also to make you a little bit more vulnerable than you are already.
So my name is Sister Magdalene, in Assumption Sisters of Nairobi. My question goes to Dr. Mercy. That is her area which is so alarming about safeguarding and the protection. And my concern is, as according to my awareness, the highlight we have for addressing these issues of safeguarding, they are somehow limiting people to be open up. During your input, you did say that we need to have other people other than the clergy and maybe the religious, whatever we say. But this one, I think we need to give it some weight. Because like, if somebody is wounded by a man, and you take that person to a man, she may feel more wounded. So I think it's good we know the nature of the harm, and then we have different committees or those who are handling the cases, and then the person is directed to somebody who can help. If it's harmed by the woman, the same thing. So can we have well-placed committees to address this issue from our families to the church to the society, because it is so alarming. Thank you.
Karibu, let's have Sister Calvin here. Yeah.
Thank you, presenters, for your wonderful presentations. Very informative. Yeah, it's about the abuse. I belong to a research team, international, and we work on abuse, spiritual abuse, abuse of power, sexual abuse in religious life across the continent. And we've had workshops in the Southern Africa, Zambia, in Western Africa, some Nigerians and English-speaking West African religious, they came to Ghana. We've also had it here for the Eastern African countries, and it's going on, ongoing. And we get some funding too from outside, not much. So, and not just doing the workshop, we're also writing papers to discuss this. So when the sisters come for these workshops, we talk about all these areas of abuse within the congregation, and the people we live and work with, like what you find in the church, what you saw in the church, how we can help people who are traumatized. Sister Mumbi here is part of that team. There are 5 of us. We have somebody from South Africa, West Africa, Eastern Africa, and New Zealand. So this is something that we have been doing that I would like us to be aware of in case you want to get involved, and how you think the team can come to where you are to do something about what's going on. Because these are things that have been happening and have never, surfaced. So I'm glad that you gave this powerful presentation today. And that's why I'm bringing this to corroborate what you are saying, that there is something on ground on the continent. Every 2 years, every year, sometime every 2 years, we identify somewhere we can bring superiors and other sisters that they may nominate to come to this workshop to empower them to go out and help the people on ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that information, and we have now the last intervention.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify the first question from the lady, and her concern was, there was something you said, Sister Mercy, about faith in action. Her question was around, in line with faith in action for refugees, while helping them as church, how do we also maintain their dignity so that they are not going through abuse in the name of helping them? That was something that I felt it would be good if you could say something, and probably not just for refugees, but any vulnerable person that goes to seek help in church, and situations have a reason where instead of getting help, they've gotten more abuse. So how do we help such situations not to arise? The other one is, how do we grow more as a listening community? How do we grow more as a listening community? Where, if you're saying we want to embody everyone to work with us in synodality, How then do we take care of those marginalized groups? The people on the periphery, as the first document referred them to. How do we ensure they are there? So those two were just paraphrasing, something I felt that would be nice for you to address. Now, to myself, I'm very happy with the three of you. You made very powerful presentations, and you're very passionate about them. So I have just been reflecting when we were at break. This is a very beautiful platform that we are on, and you're able to share this. But what are other platforms that we can challenge ourselves to stand on and share this message? Because the more it goes out there, the more all of us will keep going together. The more it stays with a few of us, the more it will still just be a few of us that are aware and that are doing something. So what are these other platforms, not just for yourselves, but for all of us in this room? What are these other platforms that we are taking up, and this message is going to the people? This message is going to the rest of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that input and appreciation. And as you know, when the elders sometimes speak, the young ones have to say, okay, and therefore I say, okay.
Thank you. You know, I don't know how to say this. Let me take, for example, people are meeting on the war between Iran and Iraq, between Russia and so forth, between the Israelis and the Palestinians. People are meeting on them. But is it possible to get them to meet together without other people interfering? Why am I saying this? You know, we do a lot of holding meetings, platforms like this one, we are writing things, but the people we are talking about are not here. How do we get them to empower themselves? As I was saying, Jesus went to the marketplaces, to the people's homes, to where the problem was, he handled it there. So how do we evolve a process, or at least change our methods, so that the people who really need to take action understand and take the action, and not we taking the action for them? I'm not sure whether I'm explaining what I'm trying to say, but I really think that we need to meet, because unless people say, where I am is not good for me, they will not leave it. What I'm doing shouldn't be done. They will not stop it. So how do we reach the people where they are, where their problems are, and get them to reflect, to find the solutions to their answers rather than we finding it for them? As I said, I'm not sure whether I've explained it, but Jesus' parables, he gets people to think and to find the answer, and then he says, go and do it. That's what I'm struggling to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay, I want also to say that sitting here in front doesn't necessarily mean that the three of us know everything. Anyone who is here can also respond. I respond with my own experiences. And I don't know which one I am starting with. When we say, how can we involve the people whom we are talking about here? For an example, just to give myself, I gave you the example of that widow, and we heard that my thesis was on the widows. And we, even after that, they also formed their own association. And my belief was having an academic, thesis without the people benefiting, it was not it is not part of me. So even the children, my thesis or my doctorate thesis is on children, and I had to ask UNISA to allow me to give one chapter of the children I'm writing about to write their own chapter, the 10th chapter in my thesis. This is how I involve the people whom I'm working with. Whether I'm writing about people, whether I'm doing something with people, they have to take part, they have to benefit, not me to benefit. So the children now, it's my thesis, my doctorate thesis was granted 2008. And now we are following up the children. And we are writing, right now the book is being published. We are going to launch the book in December. Of those children, what happened to those children when we wrote, because it was a narrative participatory approach with children who have been abused, children who have been, children living with disability, all those children, vulnerable children. So that was so now we are saying coming back, 2008, now it's 2025. We are saying we are coming back. For those children we wrote about, their names, they are there. They became also vulnerable by writing about them. That's why I wanted them to write. And it was a real thing for UNISA for me to allow me to do that. And even when that was a scholarship, I also asked them, yes, I benefited from the widows when I wrote my master's thesis. What about if these 4 widows come to UNISA to celebrate with me when they gave me, and they allowed me, because they gave me a scholarship and they allowed me, because that was my theme, participatory approach. This is what I was using. And then when I did it with the children, the same. And now I'm saying to my congregation, because these children, we started the children's home, and we worked with these children, and we said, my argument was, because all people talk about children in the children's home, they are misfits. My argument was, if we raise these children, if we evaluate them, they can become some people. And we have doctors now, these children who are writing their stories, the children who have been living in the street, children who have been sexually abused, they are now doctorate teaching in America. So when you are talking about empowering, when you are talking about giving people respect, you come to them and you involve them and you walk with them and you ask them if they are children, they speak their own also language. You allow them. If you are dealing with people like foreigners, you also have to tell them. When I did this experiment in the children's home, my general, they wanted to understand, what are you bringing at the children's home? What is it? Nothing for us without us. This was coming from the children. Whatever you are doing with us, we have to participate. But now it's a beauty. Now they are part of the writers also of the book. We are writing, we are saying now, Threads of Hope, Merward Children's Home. It's 2025, and we wrote another one. My thesis is 2008. This is how I do it. And I just encourage people not to really think big. You can change, wherever you are. And even the sisters you are living with. I have been a regional leader for twice but if you come to my community, if you see me in the field. I go to lecture, and people can even come, who is the superior here? So you have to deconstruct yourself. You have to disempower yourself. You have to, I always talk about, when I have knowledge, God gave me this knowledge, this academic knowledge, but not to abuse other people, but for other people to benefit. And I always ask myself questions like, who is marginalized in this? Who is silenced by this? Who is benefiting from this as my guiding principles? Whenever I am doing something. Sometimes you look stupid when you are in a gathering. People say, what is he trying to do? But I remain that, and I mean, this is the way I am. Even in our congregation, initially, they could even challenging our system. We have been founded by the province of Germany, and we are international, and we are, coming to Zimbabwe with our problems. But sometimes when we are mixed, I ask the leaders a question. If they are bringing policies, who is marginalized by this policy we are making? Because sometimes when we are sitting there in Rome, sometimes the people, you don't know what the people in Zimbabwe, there in the village, are thinking. So it's a way it is to conscientize yourself. And it's an ongoing process. I always ask myself, even when I am here, so you don't need to have a structure also. Just become aware of what you are doing. Are you marginalizing someone? Even if what we are doing, who is benefiting from there? Sometimes we do things to benefit ourselves, most of the times. We do things, I first have to look at myself, what am I gaining there? What am I going to get if I do this? We ask people. So I don't know whether I've answered, but I thought of saying the things in one blanket. Even if you are dealing with refugees, respect them, give them their dignity. You don't decide things for them, ask them.
Okay, sister, now let's hear from the other presenters to the theme. Thank you for that response.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to add to what Mercy has said. I think it was at lunchtime when we were talking with somebody that those of us in this room seem to know these things. The people we are talking for are probably not here. So the challenge for me could be, by the end of our 3 days here, what is it one issue that we could challenge ourselves with? Each one personally. We don't even have to write it in the evaluation form. That we can go with and say, this one is the practical issue. And for me, I keep asking my students and even myself, where is your pulpit? Which is your pulpit? And so I'm simply saying, what one caraway idea could each one of us go with by the time we finish our time here? George, I want to take advantage of my sitting here and ask a question. Suki, I'm coming back to you. I think over tea time, you said those are very, very good ideas you shared about the sexual abuse and gender. Help us, especially as we are in church and church space. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think someone also had asked earlier, and I was like, you know, the thing is, especially in our institutions of higher learning, we also have our sisters, our nuns, our fathers, the priests, the pastors also, you know, as lecturers and staff, and staff of the universities. And the unfortunate thing is then they are looked upon as wale watu wa kanisa, like, you know, the church people. And so that already, can I use the word discriminates or segregates them from everyone else. So even when a program is started on SGBV and it's, you know, they are championing it, then it is seen from the point of, oh, the church is trying to do this. Then I don't know, it doesn't at times get the seriousness that it requires or it needs. However, sometimes it just requires someone to push the idea. To push the idea, or even on how one addresses the issue or addresses the action. It is not enough, for example, for me, let me use myself as an example. It is not enough for me just to say, no, a man should not talk to you like that, or a woman should not talk to you like that. No, it behoves me to actually escalate the issue. Because if we don't escalate the issue, then the perpetrator will think, these are normal things. Nothing will happen to me, right? So just coming back to the church, as much as everyone will look at this person and think, this is a church person, once they know that the church is fully involved in ensuring that they will not accept any issues, any dealings with SGBV, and they know that the people involved take action and not just do lip service, then it will start being taken seriously by everyone, including the perpetrators. That is one. Two, even having programs within our churches that deal with affected or victims of SGBV without it turning into, and I think someone mentioned, the professor had mentioned, where at times usually say, the Bible says, But then when you tell you, show me where in the Bible it says that, we probably can't even say that. So if in the church or to advise the students or the affected staff members on how they can plug into the church, because the church has a very robust program dealing with issues to do with gender-based violence. I think that is how the church would come in very, very heavily.
And we know the issue of leadership is a very practical issue. In our various community, the issue of transformational leadership. Then my question is this: what do we do with those sisters? Leader, servant, not servant now. Relationship between the subjects and those that are being led. Those wonderful sisters who are stubborn, those wonderful sisters who are very intelligent and they could not be controlled, those who have issues with the vow of obedience and poverty, and those who think they are more learned than the superiors. We've spoken about the leaders, that they are to be transformed in order to transform others. What do we do? How do we handle them as leaders when we are faced with those concrete challenges? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you'll all agree that our three presenters, the last group of the day, they have done justice to the topic assigned to them, and they have even provoked conversations within ourselves. And for that, may I request that we give them a clap. Thank you very much. You like to take? Okay. The seat was that hot. I thought I'll finish when you are still there. That is okay. And so, my dear friends, colleagues, the day is coming to an end. It has been quite a fruitful day. If you remember, we began this day with a word of prayer inviting the Spirit. And Dr. Hadebe Nontando brought in a very provocative image of an inverted pyramid, whereby once the pyramid is inverted, of course, there are many other things to put in place. Luckily enough, Sister Gisela healed us and said there is a possibility of healing. And she used psychology, counseling, and such tools in order to bring and to heal the wounds. Immediately after, Ms. Nyadawa, who has just responded to a question, the only question that has been asked by the presenters, she brought in the question of SGBV, giving a practical example of how KCA deals, or rather uses tools of media theater in order to bring these things into the picture. To climax it all, our very own Professor Teresa Okure challenged us, those of us who say that we know the Bible. She challenged us to reread the Bible. And she gave examples of some biblical characters, including, if you didn't know, a very famous one, Hail Mary, Elizabeth, who is yet to be canonized, and even assigned a feast day. But just to see that these things, I was very, very, for instance, touched when you look at Elizabeth, the words of Elizabeth, we say it every day, probably every hour, and yet this is a woman who has not been given her rightful place. 3 P's, you remember? You remember what they mean? I don't want to ask any question. 3 R's, you remember? She talked about that. But the final word from this keynote speech is this, in line with our theme. The ball is in the court of you, the women. That's what she said. And of course, the book launch, I think we thanked the editors, but importantly, the contributors you can have a very beautiful book, but unless we read and put into practice what is written, it remains a very beautiful book. The afternoon session has also been quite provocative. I hope the mass by our Archbishop, of course, he alluded to some themes that are also recurring here. I wouldn't go into that. I would like just to mention just a few things from the afternoon presenters. Professor Mary Getui, the word discernment. And you know, when you talk of synodality, the word discernment cuts across. She invites us to embrace discerning leadership. Strong terms like motherhood, mother nature, terms that are very common, but perhaps terms that are, if you allow me to use this word, that are pregnant words. We do not know what is going to come out of them. We don't even understand them. And Dr. Marie, of course, the stories, I like the stories that you presented here. I hope they will appear in the final paper. Those stories, they are very good also for preaching, actually. I think I have some content of my homilies. Dr. Maria Natalia, also on the theme of leadership, but she invited us on this transformational leadership. And she gave an example of her congregation, IHM. And sister, we would like to wish you well. It's sometimes very difficult to change where we are. We could change there outside. This transformational leadership, I think this is the leadership that Pope Francis of Happy Memories has invited us. The good thing that you say, Dr. Natalia, is that this has to be a conscious process. And if it's a process, then we might make mistakes, but it's a process. And lastly, we just heard from Dr. Mercy about the question of safety, and a statement to really take us home is that we can talk of synodality, but if the space is not safe, there can never be synodality, because the one who feels the space is not safe is most likely marginalized, is most likely going to be left out. And of course, just to repeat the proverb that I like, and I think I'm repeating it the second time, until the lion writes his or her own stories, it will be told about us. And I can tell you, leadership is in gratitude. Just like the way we began, glory be to the Father and Rosa Mystica.